Yeah, and Cheryl, while Leland mentioned those states where those trigger laws are changing abortion access as of today, Virginia is not one of them, and the current abortion laws remain in effect. And politicians on both sides making their voices heard about how they feel about today's Supreme Court ruling. Right now in Virginia, abortion is legal through the second trimester, about 24 weeks, and third trimester abortions are allowed in some cases, like if the mother's life is at risk or if there's a fatal fetal diagnosis. Now, in statements and rallies today, Democrats vowed to protect this access that they expanded back in 2020 and 21 and work to enshrine abortion access in the state's constitution. Meanwhile, Republicans saying that they want to work to add restrictions. Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin, who has said he is pro-life, said he wants to build bipartisan consensus on legislation for, quote, protecting the life of the unborn child, unquote. He's tapped 2 Republican state senators and 2 Republican delegates to work on that issue. And his spokesperson adds he's told them to, quote, prioritize protecting life when babies begin to feel pain in the woman, including a 15-week threshold, end quote. Now, when a fetus can feel pain is something that has been debated in the past. Meanwhile, some Republican state senators are saying that they want to now protect life at the moment of conception. Here are how 2 senators from our area reacted to today's news. First, Republican Amanda Chase, then Democrat Jennifer McClellan.
I am elated to see this decision to be reversed and return to the states where it should be. We should not have federal judges making these types of political decisions.
I was outraged, even though I knew it was coming, to know that for the first time in my lifetime, the court has taken away a right, and that my daughter could have fewer rights than I do is outrageous.
Meanwhile, many groups on both sides of this issue also speaking out today, and we'll have more of that with our Maggie Marshall coming up at 5 o'clock. Working for you at the state capitol, Cameron Thompson, CBS 6 News.
Thank you, Cameron. And to give you a better idea of what today's decision means for our country, take a look at this map. 15 states will have a total ban on abortion due to trigger laws. Those are state laws that were previously in place that would make abortion illegal if Roe v. Wade were ever overturned. 5 states have what's called a gestational ban on abortion. And as you heard from Cameron, here in Virginia, abortions can still legally be performed up to the 3rd trimester of a pregnancy. After that, it can only be performed if the woman's life is in danger as determined by doctors. However, the future of abortion laws here in Virginia remains unclear. You can see on this map, Virginia is one of the states in pink. That means the law could change if Republicans take control of the General Assembly. During this year's General Assembly, 7 anti-abortion bills were introduced. None passed, but Governor Glenn Youngkin has made it clear he is against abortion. We have team coverage on the Supreme Court's decision today. Beginning on the CBS 6 News at 5, our Brendan King will speak to Richmonders who are celebrating and those who are grieving. Plus, our Maggie Marshall has reaction from Planned Parenthood and the Family Foundation.
One day after the Supreme Court struck down a New York law that limited carrying guns outside the home, the lawmakers passed new gun control legislation. The House has passed a Senate bill sending the first major new gun control bill in nearly 30 years to the White House to be signed by the president. The bipartisan legislation will enhance gun background checks for people under 21, and it sets aside $750 million to give to states that implement red flag laws. Those are designed to temporarily seize guns from people deemed dangerous. And it also closes the so-called boyfriend loophole, preventing someone who's been convicted of domestic abuse but lives outside a victim's home from buying a gun. Now, the Senate passed this bill after weeks of bipartisan negotiations led by Democrat Chris Murphy and Republican John Cornyn.
I don't believe in doing nothing in the face of what we saw in Uvalde and we've seen in far too many communities.
This bill is a compromise. It doesn't do everything I want. But what we are doing will save thousands of lives.
15 Republicans joined Democrats in passing that bill in the Senate.
The gun legislation comes as the U.S. Supreme Court issues new rulings, including one to limit the ability to enforce Miranda rights violations by police officers. In a 6-3 ruling Thursday, the court ruled suspects who are not warned about their right to remain silent cannot sue a police officer for damages under federal civil rights laws. That's even if the evidence was ultimately used against them in their criminal trial. The ruling cuts back on a person's protections against self-incrimination by barring the potential to obtain damages. The court clarified while the Miranda warning protects a constitutional right, the warning itself is not a right that would trigger the ability to bring a civil lawsuit. You can read more about these latest decisions handed down by the U.S. Supreme Court, including the opinion issued on Roe v. Wade, on our website, WTVR.com, and on the free CBS 6 News app.
An update now on the Commonwealth's fight against the coronavirus. The city of Richmond no longer considered a high community level of spread. It's now moved to medium. Our Bree Season takes a look at the community impact and talks with a representative from the health district about removing masks.
Colonial Heights, Dinwiddie, Henrico, Hopewell, and Petersburg all remain in the high category, meaning you should still wear a mask indoors according to CDC guidance. While the city of Richmond dropped to a medium COVID community, health officials say residents beware. One of the metrics used to rank community level is case rate. To rank as a medium community, there must be less than 200 new cases per 100,000 people in 7 days. This week, Richmond recorded 195 positive cases, meaning it was close. Add to that the close border with Henrico County, which has a high ranking, and health officials say you might want to mask up anyway.
We're so intermixed and so close to each other. There aren't these walls between Henrico County and Richmond City or Chesterfield County. So I'm going to keep my mask on this weekend in indoor places.
The CDC recommends that medium communities increase ventilation indoors, continue to test if exposed, follow quarantine and isolation guidance if you're sick, and stay up to date on vaccinations and boosters. Working for you, Bree Season, CBS 6 News.